Where is that?
You go to Google Effects on the left-hand side, right above the toolbox. They got
Oh yeah,
mustaches,
you're in there.
crowns,
All
every
right, go
type.
ahead, guys.
It's awesome.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
All right, guys, we're live here with a couple people that you might know. We have Jordan Burroughs, Billy Baldwin, and a couple fans who won a social media contest with us. I'm just gonna have you guys, briefly introduce yourself before we get started. Jordan, why don't we start with you, man?
What's up, everyone? My name is Jordan Burroughs. Went to the University of Nebraska. Was a two-time NCAA champion, 2011 World Champion, 2012 Olympic champion, and just made my third World team this past June. And I'm going to Budapest, Hungary to wrestle in the World Championships in September 2013.
Awesome, Billy.
Hey, my name is Billy Baldwin. I'm an actor and a wrestling enthusiast. I wrestled in high school and college. I wrestled at a small Division III program, Binghamton University, back in the 80s. They're now a Division I program, and Jordan dismantled a couple of the Binghamton boys, including an All-American that we had there. Very, very excited to be involved with the sport and very excited to be a patron of the sport. I sit on the CAPOW committee, the Committee to Preserve Olympic Wrestling, and I'm working very closely with lots of people, with Jordan and Gable and John Smith and Mike Novogratz and people like that, the Shear brothers, to try and make sure that we're on the Olympic program for 2020 and beyond. And very, very excited to be here today. I was at Stillwater and got to commentate the nice effect there. I love that. Got to commentate the World Championship Finals for NBC Universal, and was there right there Matt's side when Jordan and Dake had their first of many go-rounds. I'm sure I commented then, and I'll say it again now, that I think that their rivalry could be. To me, it was kind of reminiscent of when Magic and Bird had their rivalry in the late 70s and through the early 80s, and it helped to elevate the sport of basketball. And I'm hoping the rivalry between Burroughs and Dake does the same thing for wrestling, brings it to places that we've never seen before.
Thanks, Billy. Jennifer, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jennifer Manhart. I'm a graphic designer currently living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but born and raised in Iowa. So, yes. So I was wrestling manager all through junior high and high school, big wrestling family. So I have a lot of wrestling history in my life. I think it's a really important sport, and I think we need to save it. We need to keep it around. So.
Thank you. And I'm actually sitting here in Fargo. I've got a national runner-up right here to my left. I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Cubby Heger. I'm a two-time All-American and a two-time state champ.
From Oklahoma, right?
Yep, Oklahoma.
Best state in the union? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I just want to kick this off with a couple questions, one for Jordan and one for Billy, and we'll get this thing going. But Jordan, I first just wanted to, sort of get your thoughts. Since you're an Olympic champion, you're the face of wrestling during this. This is a trying time for a sport, tough time for a sport, but exciting time. I just wanted you to explain what wrestling means to you, how it's impacted and changed your life.
Wrestling's been huge, man. I've been wrestling since I was 5 years old, so I'm 25 now. I've been doing it for about 20 years, and it's been important to me thus far. It's helped me establish myself, into a successful young man, and it's just taught me a bunch of characteristics that have helped me become successful in life. It's taught me discipline, perseverance, and just strength, and it's just been huge, man. It's an awesome sport. I know the Olympics and the Olympic Games and the experience I had this past summer in London was awesome, but a lot of people won't get a chance to experience the Olympic Games. So even though, wrestling is at this point out of the Olympics, I think wrestling is still an important sport in developing young men. I think it's huge.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. Billy, I had one for you as well. You mentioned earlier about your role in CAPOW. But I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what you're doing, with that Hollywood angle on things, and talk a little bit. You have that auction coming up.
I've been putting together a bunch of auction items. I usually do my online auctions to raise money for various charities with charity folks, but they've subcontracted this to eBay auctions, and we have a bunch of. We launched on Friday. The first batch of the auction items are on the eBay site right now. I'll put that on screen in a second, but we've got some. I'll read down the list of some of the cool stuff that we have. We have a 1 week vacation at the Esperanza in Cabo San Lucas. We have tickets to the Jay Leno show. I'm putting together a Super Bowl package. I have, to be a guest of Mario Lopez on a set of Extra. I have a walk-on role to Boardwalk Empire and to sort of hang on the set with Steve Buscemi for the day. I have a personal one-on-one training session with Randy Couture, Shale Sonnen. Dana White gave me an MMA package. I'm working on John Jones, and we just got another one added yesterday. Chris Weidman, who's the newly minted middleweight MMA champion, is going to give us a package to either tickets to his title defense against, which was just announced, tickets to his title defense December 18th in Vegas against Anderson Silva, or a one-on-one training session with him in New York where he trains at the Gracie Training Center in Manhattan.
That's awesome, man. That sounds cool.
And all the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds, goes to the Kapow efforts to make sure we got passed through in the first vote in St. Petersburg, and now the field has been narrowed from 8 sports to 3, and it's now softball, squash, and wrestling. That vote is early September in Buenos Aires, so I'm going to go down for that, and hopefully we're going to be the one of those 3 chosen, and all the monies that we raise are going to go towards the campaign to have wrestling reinstated for 2020 and beyond.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I was going to kick it to our guests here and let them, ask you a question or two, whatever they had on their mind. Jennifer, you had a couple questions.
Yeah. My first question for Jordan was, what has been your favorite cross-cultural experience so far with USA Wrestling?
My favorite cross-cultural experience, actually, I went to a benefit in late September, and I got a chance to meet some of the best athletes in the world. I was hanging out with Shaq, hung out with Lisa Leslie, Joe Torre, a bunch of guys were there. Jake LaMotta, just guys that I grew up watching in movies, grew up watching on TV. So for me, even though I'm heralded as a world-class athlete, it's kind of still really cool for me to be able to get a chance to meet these athletes. So people come up to me and they're like, "Man, you're awesome. You've done great things for the sport of wrestling. Can I have your autograph?" But I'm still a big fan at heart and love to meet some of the best athletes in the world. So that was cool. That was pretty cool.
Can you dunk on Shaq?
I can't even dunk, man. I can touch the rim. That's like one of my life goals is to dunk. I can't dunk. I'm like this far away, but you got to have a lot of clearance to get that ball over the rim, and my hands are too small to grip the ball.
You think you could double him? I think you could.
I could double him, but he's a huge dude. He's one of the biggest men I've ever met. Like, he's not just tall, he's massive. Like, he made me look like a little baby. Like, you know how people strap their babies to their chest? He could like put me in one of those little baby holders and like walk around with me, and I'll be like comfortable in there.
He can't dunk, but can Shaq tech take in the first period?
I don't know, man. He's probably not, though.
Awesome.
What do you think of that, Jordan? What do you think of that 7-0, that 7-point tech? I don't like that. I like a lot of the new rules, but I think the tech should go to 10 or 12, 10 points minimum, even 12 points.
I don't know. I think it works. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but I think it works for the sport. If a guy has executed 4 takedowns or 4 turns on a guy without him scoring at all, he's kind of getting his butt kicked anyway. So I think 4 executed shots, 4 executed takedowns or turns really is helpful in the sport, and it keeps things rolling, keeps the ball rolling. I think 10 points, it's relatively good, but I guess you got to get 4 takedowns anyway to get the 8. So
you saw Jordan Oliver in L.A. against the Russian. He was down by like 6 points, and late in the second period, he stormed back with a couple of takedowns to win like 9-8 or something. And like the fans are there to watch the wrestling, and I hate when these. You take somebody down, you get an ankle lace on them, you turn them twice quick, and then all of a sudden you're on your feet. Next takedown, the match is over. So
I agree.
There's part of me that wants to see a little bit more wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I think the fans want to see great wrestling, but I can't really argue with you on that. That's a good point, man.
Well, you guys know we have that pretty historic event coming up Saturday and Sunday in Greece. With wrestlers from all over the world are competing in, the birthplace of our sport. I was wondering, either you can answer this, if you could talk about the unity, that we've all come together during this time with the IOC decision. How you think the wrestling world's responded.
Billy?
Well, we could both, I guess, comment on this. I mean, I think it's an unprecedented amount of awareness and media attention. There's hundreds of millions of media impressions that are being generated, that have been generated since February when the IOC Executive Committee made the announcement. I remember the day they made the announcement in February, and I think this will sort of capture sort of the essence of what you're talking about. The day they made the announcement, Yahoo News on their homepage had an article, and within like 5 hours there were 7,500 comments, and I was scrolling through page after page after page of the comments, and a lot of the comments were, look, I never wrestled in my life. In fact, I've never even been to a wrestling match, but wrestling not being in the Olympics is like the 4th of July without fireworks. It's like, it doesn't even make sense to me why they would ever. It started with wrestling in the marathon. It's been there for 3,000 years. It's been there 800 years before Christ. And we have like rhythmic gymnastics and ping pong and all this other stuff. Why would they keep some of those sports in? And it just didn't make sense to anybody who never even wrestled. So I really think the silver lining in this may be a blessing in disguise. This may be the shot fired over the bow and the wake-up call that wrestling needed. I know that the IOC, and I wouldn't blame the IOC alone on this. I think the leadership at FILA, which is the governing body that represents wrestling to the IOC, a lot of the blame falls at their feet because the IOC has been warning them about what I would call modernizing the sport, and they did not heed the warning, and for years they've been saying stuff about female wrestlers and more women in administration and changing the rules and making it more interesting and dynamic and exciting for the viewers and making there be more aggression and more offense and more point scoring, but also making it easy for the audience to understand, the layman, especially people watching the Olympics. And they did not answer that call, and now all of a sudden we find ourselves in the situation that we do, and we're quickly scrambling to catch up with what they've been asking for, I think, quite frankly, for 20 years.
Yeah,
well put.
It is well put. I got a Twitter question for you, Jordan.
Yep.
Let's see. Where's your favorite place in Colorado Springs, besides Colorado Springs, to hang out?
My favorite place is probably Buffalo, New York. My fiance's from Buffalo, so I've spent a lot of time there in the last year, getting to know a lot of people. Her uncle is actually Hall of Famer running back Thurman Thomas. So I spent a lot of time there with her family, met him, met a couple people from the Buffalo Bills organization, and I love the city. It's extremely cold in the winter, but it's a really nice place. So besides Colorado Springs, which I love the mountains, love the scenery out in Colorado, Buffalo, New York is probably my second favorite place.
Wow, if I took a poll right now and I asked somebody to say what their favorite place is outside of Colorado, and I asked 1,000 people to answer that question, I think
None of them would say Buffalo.
Maybe one other would say Buffalo. And by the way, you shouldn't have said that because my Binghamton Bearcats are going to need you to come and do a clinic for them at one of these points. We're gonna talk offline about you coming down to help out my Binghamton Bearcats.
All right, yeah, for sure, no doubt.
We'll get you there for the clinic.
Yeah, I got a question.
All right, go for it.
Jordan, when you first won the Olympics, can you explain how you felt? Like, what was
No, man, it was like surreal. It was incredible. Just think of the best athletic accomplishment of your entire career, and times it by 10. But I guess it's all relative. I remember when I won my first state title in high school, it was exhilarating. When I won my first national title, I was at another place, and it was amazing. It's just like pure euphoria. I'm just standing there on top of the podium. It's unbelievable. My family's in the crowd. I know millions of fans at home have been watching on TV. I got like 30,000 Twitter followers like in a day, like instantly. It was incredible, man. It was the best experience of my athletic career thus far, and I really enjoyed it. I made a lot of sacrifices and commitments to try to be an Olympic champion. So to see my goals and aspirations actually come true is unbelievable. It was awesome.
Can you talk about that journey from when you were a young wrestler to achieving that goal, and maybe what you would tell a kid who wants to be you?
Yeah, for sure, man. It takes a lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifices. You know, I've been here in Nebraska for 7 years. Graduated from high school in 2006, so I've been living here and training here for the last 7 years. And you know, I've missed a lot of holidays, missed a lot of birthdays, missed a lot of Christmases, and a lot of time spent with my family to be here. You know, so like just like for example, the last holiday, 4th of July, where everyone was out celebrating and shooting off fireworks, eating hot dogs and hamburgers. I was at the Olympic Training Center doing a two-a-day. You know, so it's an extremely intense commitment that you have to make to be the best wrestler in the world, but it's extremely rewarding. You know, it's so for me, I'll sacrifice fun to be the best wrestler I can be. You know, I just want to use the gifts God's given me to become the best wrestler I can be possibly. You know, and it's worked out thus far. I want to continue to do it for as long as I love the sport. And right now, I absolutely love the sport and want to do it as long as I can.
So I got a question, another question from Tyler Spencer. He says, how much can you bench press in one rep?
How much can I bench press? I'm not as strong as I used to be when I was in college, surprisingly. I'm not as strong as I used to be. When I was in college, I used to lift 3 times a week. I was extremely strong. I think the most I ever bench press was like 325. Bench press 325 one time, but I'll probably never see that again. So that's absolutely fine with me. You know, the older you get, the weaker you get, but the more good technically you get. So I'll sacrifice that.
Jordan, I have a question. When, you know, there's been a lot of guys. I've gone to the tournament since 1979. I've seen a lot of national champions, a lot of multiple national champions come through, all the way back to like Gene Mills. You know, that was sort of like when I first started really paying attention to it.
Yep.
And I've seen a lot of, you know, multiple national champions that weren't able to make the transition to the elite, either from collegiate style to freestyle and Greco, or to turn that final corner and continue to develop and continue to get better after they were a 2 or 3 time national champion in order to become an elite world-class athlete, in other words, an Olympic medalist, an Olympic gold medalist. When I watched you wrestle and win the national championship twice, and I saw you, you know, beat the crap out of a lot of people, there was a lot of guys that were 2 or 3 years before you, 2 or 3 years after you, that won the national championship a couple times. You've done it. You've won the gold. Let's say you're in a different weight class, and Dake is now trying to attempt to make that transition, international competition, freestyle, and elevating himself. What would you say? I don't even know how you would answer this question, but try to answer. What is it that went on in your heart and your mind and your training that allowed for you to evolve and to develop from a guy who was a 2-time national champion from Nebraska? Big difference between that and being London gold medalist. How does that happen? Because it doesn't happen for so many.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, it's extremely tough. I would kind of attribute it to my work ethic. You know, I like to work extremely hard. I was extremely confident coming out of college, but it was just great timing. You know, and it's a little difficult if you put it in relation to a guy like Kyle Dake. You know, me coming out of college, the weight class was wide open. There weren't a lot of people in the United States that were winning medals, you know, so it was wide open and it was basically mine for the taking. It was right for the picking. I went in there, learned as much freestyle as possible in a short amount of time, and just tried to translate my my neutral position wrestling into the freestyle. You know, it was a perfect fit for me because I was best on my feet and I only had to win 2 minutes at a time, so I was in great shape. I had a great double leg takedown. I was great on my feet. I was good defensively. So it was a little bit easier for me to transition than, say, the normal guy. But it's really tough, man. Like you said, once you get to this international level, everyone's a national champ. You know, everyone's been an All-American. But it's tough, you know, but it just takes time, you know, and it comes with timing. It's all about timing it at the right time. I graduated from college when I felt as though I was the best I had been in my career. You know, like I said, the weight class was wide open, and went out and was extremely confident. Never had wrestled internationally before, and I had a style that was just posed a big matchup problem for a lot of the best guys in the world, and that kind of attributed to my success.
That double leg and that ankle pick, definitely a major. But do you ever find yourself on the mat with one of those weird, like Azerbaijan or Uzbekistan, these guys with these funky, weird styles where you're like, I've never even seen that before. What the hell am I going to do?
Man, they're tough. Some of those guys are wrestling. I get embarrassed. You know, I mean, I've been to practice a lot of times and gotten beaten in practice, gotten takedown a bunch of times, gotten thrown, you know, so it's all about what you do out there on the mat, but the process is tough. You know, the process is extremely tough. I've wrestled guys that I felt like I was overmatched or they were better than me technically, but I think one of the things that I can attribute to my success is just my mental toughness, you know, my ability to forget. I've been out there that guys have been technically superior, you know, they've been in better shape than me, but there are a lot of times when I'm down by a point and I need a takedown, or I'm up by a point and I need to hold a guy off, and I can always do that because I put myself in tough situations and work on my mental toughness every day of the week.
Very cool.
Yeah, good deal, Jordan. Well, do you guys have any more questions for these two before we go to closing comments? Cub, you have anything? No? All right. Well, Billy, let's start with you. I just want to get your final thoughts on this Keep Olympic Wrestling, campaign that we're doing. What we have to continue to do, pressing forward, and just let people know what they can do.
Well, I would say, like I said before, this is a key opportunity for us, and I've been listening for decades. I met Dan Gable a year after he won the gold medal in 1972. I met him in 73, 74 in Al Bevilacqua's kitchen when I was a little kid. And I've been listening to these guys, the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, which you, Burroughs, are about to join. But Sanderson and Gable and John Smith and Jeff Blatnick. And I've been listening to these guys say, how do we take this sport and how do we elevate it to heights that we only dreamed of? And like I said, I think this slap in the face could be the opportunity. If we take advantage of this, we aren't complacent, and we rally the forces between now and that September vote, and if we get in as a provisional sport for 2020 and 2024, and then we become part of the core again, the Olympic core sports, I think we have an opportunity to take the sport with this rivalry with you and Dakin, with ambassadors for the sport like Jordan Burroughs, and take it to a place that we've never seen. One example is that we were on NBC Universal for the World Team Trials. I think we should have 5 or 6 events a year. Let's start 3 or 4 events a year between now and the 2016 games and the 2020 games. Wrestling should be on television. When they started in the old days, Vince McMahon and Dana White and all those guys, they had to pay to get on television. And now look at WWE. It's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. I don't know if collegiate wrestling and freestyle wrestling will ever be a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, but can we get it on TV and make it profitable and make it content on television for the masses? I think we can, but we're going to need everybody watching today and all of the wrestling enthusiasts and patrons out there to really not become complacent and to really get ready to step up, even in the form of just simply tuning in. When we had the World Team Trials on the other night, on NBC Universal, when the word gets out, you're making a huge statement to NBC if you're tuning in. If we have 200,000, 300,000 people watching that, that's what they expected. If we have 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million, then they start to say, oh, wait a second, maybe wrestling does have the following where it's an investment that there's going to be some potential profit for them, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for the network, and they'll put us on again. So.
Right. And Jordan, same sort of question there, going forward as well. But also, you have the World Championships coming up. You talk about, your preparation for that, what your game plan is for that, and how you're going to get back up and get that gold.
Doing a lot of preparation. For me, it's all about doing the same things that have got me to this point. I try not to gear too much into changing what I've become. I just want to continue to be like a sponge and soak up as much technique as I can, remain humble, and never get complacent. I remember someone told me there are 2 types of people in this world. There are campers and there's climbers. Campers are complacent where they've been, happy with what they've accomplished in their career, and they just want to settle and live off of what they've already accomplished. But climbers want to continue to get better, continue to grow, continue to work on their technique, and I want to be considered a climber. I want to be the best wrestler I can be the best Jordan Burroughs I can be. So going out there in September 18th to be exact, I just want to go out there, wrestle as hard as I can, and hopefully bring home a 3rd world title. But right now I'm just doing a lot of wedding planning. For you guys that don't know, I'm getting married October 12th. So my
brother's getting married.
Yeah, so I've been mixing world championship training into cupcake tasting, picking venues and all type of craziness. But wrestling's a huge sport. You know, it's done a lot for me up until this point, and you know, I want to continue to wrestle as long as I can. So 2016 is definitely in the crosshairs, and then after that, I'll reevaluate my career and decide whether I want to wrestle till 2020 or not. But I definitely want that decision to be mine and not the IOC. So hoping to get a chance to wrestle in 2020 and beyond. And for even if I don't wrestle, I want a bunch of kids, guys like you, Cub, and guys at Fargo and all over the world to get a chance to experience what I experienced this past summer in London. It was awesome.
Jordan, what's your fiance's name? First name?
Fiance's name is Lauren.
Lauren
Mariacker, yep. She's a cutie. She's a sweetheart.
That's Thurman's daughter?
No, this is Thurman's niece. This is Thurman's niece.
Oh, his niece, okay.
Yep.
My high school buddy played on all those 4 Super Bowl losses. A high school buddy that I played for, he was one of 3 brothers, and all of them played in the NFL.
Oh, what was their name?
The Baldinger brothers, Gary, Rich. They all played for my father's high school football team. Gary, Rich, and Brian Baldinger. Brian Baldinger is an analyst for Fox Sports and the NFL Network right now, but his little brother Gary was on all 4 of those Super Bowl losses.
Yeah, that was brutal. I don't know to him. You know, I don't
know. That's a good idea.
Talk about that 4 Super Bowls, but it's pretty impressive even to make it that far and make 4 Super Bowl teams.
No doubt.
All right, guys. Well, we've unfortunately run out of time here, but I want to thank everyone for joining us. You guys were awesome. I just want to run down a couple things before we get off. We have Fargo going on the next couple days, freestyle. And make sure you check out the auction that Billy's running. The URL there is stores.ebay.com/save-usa-wrestling if you want to get on there and check that out.
I forgot to say that. I'll put that on the screen. Could you just say that one more time?
Yeah, it's stores.ebay.com/save-usa-wrestling. So it's nice and short for you. So we have that going on, and we also have the Grease event coming up on Saturday and Sunday that's going to be broadcast on FILA's Facebook page. It's facebook.com/FILAofficial if you want to check that out as well. And always be proactive. Visit keepolympicwrestling.com. Go sign the petitions. There's a bunch of stuff you can do on there. So we thank you all for joining us. And next week, we're having another one next week. Every week until the vote, we'll have a Google Plus Hangout. So stay tuned for that. We'll announce who's coming up.
Yeah, go to keepolympicwrestling.com. And Jordan, I'll see you in Budapest.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Billy. I appreciate it, man.
You too.